We all love our bikes, right? Well, one way that we express our gratitude to our lovely steeds is to treat them to some upgrades. After all, any accomplice that sees us through such great adventures is worthy of some gifts. And one of the most popular gifts we bestow upon our beloved bicycles is suspension, but more specifically, a new fork. But with so much conflicting information on the internet, how will we ever know which fork we're supposed to buy? Well, be at ease, weary rider, because today we're going to go through the do's and don'ts of fork selection across all of the mountain biking disciplines, so you'll know exactly which fork you should put on your bike.
Let's start with downcountry bikes. Using the sprightly Siskiyou D7 SE as an example, this bike is a 120mm travel front and rear bike that comes stock with a 32mm stanchion SR Suntour radon from the factory. We will use two guidelines now and for the remainder of the video to decode what kind of fork upgrade would be best for any bike. The first one being the +10 rule, which states if increasing travel on a front fork, it's best practice to increase the travel by 10mm. That way your factory geometry isn't impacted too greatly, ensuring the best possible riding dynamics as well as structural integrity. The second guideline is the +2 stanchion rule, which states, if increasing stanchion diameter, it's best practice to not exceed 2mm of extra stanchion diameter. This concept ensures that your bike's weight distribution is not impacted negatively. You certainly don't want a significant weight bias up front. In the case of the Siskiyou D7 SE, a 10mm increase would bring us to 130mm. With that in mind, you can choose whether you'd like to run a 120mm or 130mm travel fork with either 32mm stanchions or slightly beefier 34mm stanchions. The 34mm stanchion setup would eliminate some flex, increase support, and increase cornering control, but it may mean a slight weight penalty. Some good candidates would be the Fox 32 on the lighter end, or maybe the Marzocchi Z2 on the more burly side, which would make your bike tread the line of our next category, which would be trail bikes. Now using the aggressive Siskiyou T8 as our subject, this steed boasts 140 front and 135 rear travel on 29er models and comes stock with a 34mm stanchion Fox 34 rhythm fork. So let's do the math again, shall we? A 10mm increase from 140 brings us to 150mm. Now when we apply our +2 stanchion rule to that calculation, we can officially conclude that for this bike, a fork with 140 to 150mm of travel with 34, 35, or even 36mm stanchions would be the optimal choice. In any of these cases, lean into how and what you ride to help finalize your decision. If you're going bigger than you thought you would and pushing your bike to its limits, it's probably best to beef things up with a fork like the Marzocchi Z1, RockShox Lyric, or the SR Suntour Duralux 36. As with our previous Siskiyou D7 case study, the burlier option would allow the Siskiyou T8 to tread the lines of a higher discipline of mountain biking, and in the case of the Siskiyou T8, that would be enduro. Which brings us to our final case, enduro bikes. Using the beastly Colossus N9 as an example, this monster rocks 170mm of travel front and rear with a Fox 38 performance fork up front. So for our last go, break out your calculators and let's do this. But we do have a surprise. When upgrading bikes with 170mm of travel or more, a 10mm change becomes less significant, meaning riders can now add as much as 20mm extra up front. A 20mm increase from 170 would bring us to 190mm of front travel. Being that the Colossus is not rated for dual crown forks, you'll have to stick with single crown 38mm stanchions on this bike. Some good fork candidates aside from the equipped Fox 38 in this category would be the RockShox Zeb or even the SR Suntour Duralux 38. If you're the type of rider who's spending less time pedaling and dedicating most of their riding to gravity park laps, the extra travel to your enduro bike may deem itself quite beneficial.
Now we hope that clears the air as a general baseline for which fork you should select for your bike. Now if you have any remaining questions, obviously that is what the comments section below is for. If you found today's video useful or entertaining, make sure that you smash that like button. As always, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you can see more content just like this. I'm your Bikes Online host Jared, and I'll see you around.